Takes Radio Company presents another expedition, another adventure, another episode in how to be a world-class Jesus entrepreneur. And we asked today on the Jesus Entrepreneur podcast, could Jesus have been the world's first Christian gentleman? Let's talk about that. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that is, as I said, maybe a description, maybe it's an aspiration. Friends and a few foes, which is always fun to have, and I appreciate that because it's always good to have someone from time to time who wants to take issue with you in a civilized, maybe gentlemanly way. And welcome to another changing edition of How to Be a World-Class Jesus Entrepreneur. You see, the legal name for the corporation, which is now becoming a collective, is, because you have to have a name, it is the Christian Entrepreneur Network. And that is a fully established 501c3, recognized by the state and stamped as such by the United States Internal Revenue Service. We are fully legal in everything you give and everything we hopefully do. Today is the last day of April, and tomorrow is May Day. Now, if you're old, like me, you may remember the May Day celebrations or the May basket situation. If you don't know anything of what I'm talking about, about May Day and May baskets, do a little research, maybe by asking someone who's kind of old, maybe a parent, a grandparent, maybe someone even older who may remember the custom of particularly children, boys and girls. Spring is coming. It's the first day of May, and so we had our May basket time. If you know something about that, I'd love to hear some of your stories. And if you don't know what it's about, go ask your AI robot, and he or she will probably tell you the story. But it's also what we call May Day, or the first day in May, because then that day was captured by many of the revolutionary elements of the 19th and 20th century, particularly those of the communist persuasion. And so it was said that May Day was kind of the celebration of the working man, of the man. And of course, they were very careful at that time of saying, and women, but they forgot to say it until they were reminded of the working man, as opposed to just the Labor Day. This was May Day for the helping to bring the working man, the proletariat forward. And so in many of the countries of the communist persuasion, May Day was a celebration of work and going forward from that. Now, on this May Day, I think it's important for us to know, here we are in the fifth month of 2026, and there's all kinds of things going on. You know all about that. What is true, and I'll simply remind myself of that, is that things are changing every day, rapidly changing. Our program called Inconvenient Ideas simply says, what if everything you thought you knew was wrong? And increasingly what is true is that what we thought might be true may not be fully true, may not be correct, may not be anything of true or false, but it just doesn't work very well anymore. Or there is something brand new. You make me feel brand new. That's one of our theme songs. Again, you've got to be kind of old to know that song, but brand new, transformed, changed significantly. Those are the things that are happening to all of us today if we are aware and if we want to survive and thrive in what I would say, first of all, it is obviously an AI economy. My friend Joe Pine is introducing the idea of a transformation economy. And I would say in many cases that's probably the case. I also suggest that it's an performance economy. And that is true. It is also an attention economy. Getting people's attention is really hard to do these days because there are so many things happening, so much noise out there, so many people, so many things, so much media. Is for you to actually be in a place where you can be attractive in the best sense of the word and world, that people are attracted to who you are, what you've become, what your business is, and what your business or your organization or your great cause can do for them. A transformation economy? Certainly. A performance economy? Absolutely. An attraction economy? Very much probably a possibility. And certainly what the artificial intelligence, and of course you may or may not remember, but we could go through it some other time, that it's not just the artificial intelligence, it's the 4A economy. And that's more than AI. And of course, if you don't know what the 4A's are, why don't you write to me at stan@witradio.net, stan@witradio.net, and we'll make every effort to help you do that. This program is now being called, we changed it. We called it the Jesus Entrepreneur Experience. The organization, the Christian Entrepreneur Network, has a DBA of the Jesus Entrepreneur Collective. It's different. As we mentioned, we are not in the business of attracting or seeking new clients. We are in the business of putting together a collection of people. And one of the things I'm asking for and from you is I would like some of you who begin to see the possibility in this of becoming what we call. This is the way every new organization will have to start. We want some founding friends. As somebody said, what do I have to do? Well, to use the language of the time, first of all, we would appreciate you giving us a Benjamin, $100. We would appreciate you giving us a membership. Just say, I'm in, and we'll put your name down. You don't do anything. Just say, please, I'd like to know more. I think I could be helpful. I think this could be useful. I think I could help other people. I think I can make some money. So you want to be a part of the Christian Entrepreneur Network. And that means you are part of the Jesus Entrepreneur Collective. And this is very simply now the Jesus Entrepreneur Podcast. Now, I was one of the first to invent podcasting, but I always, when the word came out, the majority of people didn't know what you were talking about. So I actually said, well, it's a radio program on the internet. So I called it the Jesus or whatever entrepreneur radio program on the internet. Or I then called it a radio podcast. Well, it got to the point where the confusion was increased. And so now almost everybody has had at least some experience in knowing about it. So I'm very clear. This is a podcast. It's video and it's audio, but it's a podcast, which means personal on demand. And the term was invented by Steve Jobs, Apple. And that's where the iPod came from. That's the term that was used. And podcast, a personal on-demand broadcast. And that's what we are right now. Now, here is the question. We finally get to it, but it's important. You saw it. Was Jesus the world's first Christian gentleman? Now, the theory behind this program and what makes us somewhat different of all the other organizations out there in this way is particularly when it comes to the business of building a business, an organization, or a collective that matters. In effect, we say Jesus is many things, and he's many things to many of you, but he is also the inspiration for world-class entrepreneurialism. Yes, he is a world-class entrepreneur. It seems that probably he began his entrepreneurial career probably at the age of 12 or 13 as a young Jewish boy, began to learn something of his father's trade, which of course is the fact and the thing that oftentimes has happened throughout history and still does today. Learned his business. It seems that he became pretty good at it. Well, of course he became good at it. He's going to be good at everything he does. He's the one who probably, when his father died, went and led it and grew it. He obviously got many clients or customers, maybe people who began to know him for being perhaps not only a good carpenter, maybe not only a good businessman, but was he a gentleman? I've had the privilege, when asked, a good friend of mine died, and it was totally unexpected, and that's when it's really the hardest. Dick was a great guy, incredible athlete, world-class skier from Colorado. But he was also very much in the insurance business, financial services. And many of his clients were the recreational businesses in Colorado. So, and an incredible Christian man. And he was on a hike with his friends, the hiking club in our Arizona community. And he was one of what they called the sweeper. And this was the guy or woman who was so good at hiking that they would be, at many times, they would go back and make sure that the people in the back of the hiking group were okay, because they were going slower, and making sure that they were okay, that they didn't get hurt, and make sure that they could, encourage them to, keep going. Let's see if we can pick up the pace, and encourage her. And while he was doing that, he just dropped dead. Boom. He was gone. The 911 was called because it was up in the mountains. A helicopter came, and they came, and they said, he's gone. And his dear wife, Jeannie, she was out. She was out doing her things, and she comes home, and right in front of the house is, of course, 2 police cars. And that's when she discovered. We were just all shocked. Just mortified. One of the saddest things that we found out as we tried to work with Jeannie and help her through the incredible trauma of it all is that Dick was one of those guys who always had a golden retriever dog. All his life. He had many of them. He was known for that. And of course, the dog is waiting for Dick to come back. And every time somebody came to the door, there was the dog going to see if could it be Dick. Jeannie asked if I'd just give a word at the memorial service, the celebration service. He was a Christian gentleman. I gave it away. I said, yeah. And then I thought about it. And so I was asked to come forward, and I simply did this. rather than making a longer speech, I just went over to the little memorial stand where there was a wonderful picture of our friend Dick and a picture of his dog. And I just simply went to the microphone and said, Dick was the essence of a Christian gentleman. And I stopped and sat down. A number of people were struck by that. But I'm more and more convinced that that is one of the major needs. The other day in the supermarket, I'm a bit old-fashioned, I know. And one of these women came up and she had a lot to do and she was busy and she was behind me. And so I said, go ahead. You go ahead. She said, no. I said, please go ahead of me. And I said, you got a lot. I've got, thank you. And then she looked at me and said, thank you. That's different. And I said, well, I'm kind of an old-fashioned, trying to be a Christian gentleman. And she stopped. And then she looked at me and she said, there aren't many left anymore. Thank you. Keep doing that. That's part of what this whole deal is all about. Not only do we want to restore a right manhood, particularly in the younger men and women, and the men, and how they treat their women, so that the women really know what it's like to be in the presence of a gentleman. And maybe that becomes part of the qualifications they seek in who they partner with. So I just ask you the question now. So there's a number of churches who are now saying that they're getting ready for their summer Bible studies. I just gently said to one of them, I said, why don't you not only just study the Bible, why don't you study the living Word of God? Why don't you just study Jesus? Everything you can about him. And maybe some of the things that we wonder about him. I did a program one time that caused an incredible amount of fun and controversy where I would said, do you think Jesus had a dog? Well, you would not believe the conversations that went on about that. And of course, well, what kind of dog? You see, it was a way of thinking about Jesus as one of them. He did not just came to be, among us. He became one of us. So what do you think that means for you and me? That he is not only a way to salvation, but he is a way to how to live and do business and to build an enterprise. He is not only the Savior of the world, he is the gentleman example to the world. So my point to you is this. Why don't you think about that? What do you think Jesus would be as a first Christian gentleman? How do we know that he might be the first Christian gentleman? Were there other precursors who might have been also in the framework of the Spirit Christian gentleman? What does it mean today to be a Christian gentleman? I'm just going to let that sit on your head for a while, maybe stir your mind, maybe touch your heart, and cause you to reach out and say, I'd like to be one. I would like to be a Jesus gentleman. By the way, that's the book that I'd like to write this year with your help. How to be a Jesus gentleman. Sounds like fun. Something we should do. Maybe you'd like to be a part of helping to write the book, How to Be a Jesus gentleman. I'm Stan Hustad for the Christian Entrepreneur Network, the Jesus Entrepreneur Collective, and for right now, the Jesus Entrepreneur Podcast. And right now, many of you are going to start being on the program on a regular basis. And that might be one of our first conversations. First of all, tell me what you think Jesus the gentleman would be like today. Thank you for your time. However you celebrate May Day, may it be a good day for you. May 3rd is the celebration of the partner of my life. Hard to believe. We've been together for about 60 years. And it's been the best of times and sometimes the struggle of times. And all through it, I've oftentimes asked myself, how should I treat the most precious thing in my life, which is my woman partner? What would it take to be a gentleman? Love to hear from you. Stan@witradio.net, Stan@witradio.net. All the best and blessings to you, and be one. Take care, and bye for now.